Hi everybody, Lori here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've got a couple of fun shaker floral cards using the Fancy Flowers kit by Queen & Company. And I gotta admit, I've never used a Queen & Company kit before, but this probably won't be my last time because this is fun. So this is the Fancy Flowers kit and all that comes in it. I'll just give you a quick walkthrough of everything in the kit. First is the 6x6 paper pad. You get a lot of pattern paper. It's double-sided, a mixture of patterns and colors, kind of sherbety. There's dotted and stripes and florals. There's two big, large sheets of dies with a mixture of florals, foliage, and whatnot. So one is kind of the detail on the left, and then the ones on the right are just kind of that basic outline shape. There's also a 4x6 clear stamp set with a lot of different occasions and a great mixture of fonts. Also in the kit are these foam shakers. You get 3 sheets of foam shakers. And then you also get a package of the acetate windows that are sized perfectly for all those different bloom shapes. And then last but certainly not least, the 12 different shaker toppings. These are beautiful little pearls in sherbety colors to just make all your shaker wishes come true. Okay, so I'm going to get to shaking it up. Also, this was invaluable for me. In the kit, there's a Fancy Flower die guide, and it just kind of gives you an idea of how to put it together. Not that you have to go, like you don't have to put those leaves with those blooms. You can mix and match, but it just kind of helped me to get going. So first I just decided to choose a bloom, and I chose this one here. It's got like 6 petals. You've got that outline die, the detail die, and that foam shaker that all coordinates with. First thing I'm going to do is die cut the outline out of some white cardstock. Just make a white die cut out of that outline shape. Then I'm going to take the detail of that same shape bloom and die cut it into some very light peach solid color cardstock. You could also, this is a great occasion to use some of that pattern paper, but I just decided to do a little peach solid color cardstock. Now I watched a few Queen & Company YouTube videos to see if there was like a specific order of how to put this all together. And I think at the end of the day, you can do just about whatever feels good to you. After you do a couple, you kind of figure out what works. I am by no means an expert, but these foam die cut pieces are double-sided adhesive. So I removed one of the backing and I'm going to adhere it onto that white die cut, and this will kind of create your shaker base. Now for the filling. Some might say the best part. I decided to fill each petal with a different color of shaker topping, and you know I'm going in rainbow order. But let me say, these little doodads are staticky. And I did see in a video once with a lady, she kind of huffed in the bag, like a little bit of breathing, gives it that slight bit of moisture, kind of cuts down on the static electricity. These things are like jumping beans. And then I rifled through the acetate shapes and found the matching bloom shape for this one here that I'm using. I removed that adhesive liner, so this is sticky, and I'm carefully trying to line up the acetate and then cover so everything is secure, nothing's going to fall out. I'm taking some liquid glue and putting it on the top of everything, and I will glue down my peach die cut on top, and that kind of covers up any imperfections and makes it look so finished and perfect. I took an acrylic block, just set it on there to give it a little bit of weight and let that dry. Now, for the center of your bloom, if you want to, there's a mixture of things you can add, die cuts and shapes. I took this one little star die cut. I die cut it twice. One out of white glitter cardstock, which is what I'm gluing down here first in the center. And then on top of that, the same shape, I die cut it out of vellum. And I'm just going to glue that right on top of that white glitter, but just rotate it slightly, and so that kind of fills out. Looks like little stamen, if you will. And then I just took a little clear drop, like an adhesive sticker drop, and glue that right in the center. There's a million and one ways you can zhuzh up the center of your shaker blooms. So I had so much fun putting that together. It came together much quicker than I thought it would, and it really is kind of addictive. So I'm going to go ahead and make 2 more floral shakers. Now I'm using the pattern paper out of the pattern paper that comes in the Fancy Flowers kit. 2 different shades. One's kind of a pinky rose, and this is a very light aqua blue. So just matching up the bloom shapes. Now here for the center of the one bloom on the back side was some stripy pattern, and it all kind of coordinates together. And then you just find that foam shaker, remove that adhesive backer, pop it down. And now these blooms are kind of large, so generally you're probably, like on a standard A2 size card, most likely going to only be able to fit 1 or 2 of these. Unless you make a larger card or a slimline size card. These also could make fun little tags. I think that this kit would make such a fantastic gift for somebody. I was thinking of my daughter, she's 13. If she had a group of friends over and you could do like a Fancy Flowers kit party activity, everybody could make a shaker bloom. I mean, honestly, I think any age would love to do like a little Fancy Flowers kit party. And all you'd have to buy is 1 kit, and then everybody gets to make a couple bloom shakers, and it'd be like kind of fun. So I think this would make a fun gift. Anywho, okay, as you can see, I'm just matching up the die cuts, the foam, adhesive pieces, the acetate. Now these 2 blooms here, I decided to fill them both with just the little white mini pearls. So I ended up using a whole bag. Now that is one thing you're probably going to need to buy more filler. I guess need is the wrong word. You're going to want to buy more filler. By the way, have you checked out all the little filler shaker toppings that Queen & Company has? These are just the little pearlies, but I can see this being a real slippery slope. Next thing you know, I'm going to need a whole drawer just for shaker filler. But man, is it fun. Okay, so gluing on that little stripy center, using my acrylic block to hold it down while it dries. And so there you have 2 more quick and easy little shaker blooms. Now I'm going to turn these into cards. So the first one, I like to do what I love to do, which is strip it up. And I just trimmed a bunch of solid color cardstock to some thin little strips. I didn't measure. All the strips are different widths, but I love that, the different variety and widths and colors. Of course, you know I'm going in rainbow order. In rainbow order. And this just makes a cheery little background for one of your floral shakers. Another thing you could do, I just thought of it, was trim strips of the pattern paper that comes in the kit and do what I'm doing here, but just with strips of pattern paper. Okay, so I trimmed this panel down a little bit smaller than my card base. So this panel measures about 3.5 inches wide by 4 3/4 inches tall. Little tape runner on the back, and I'm gluing it to a cream card base. Now, for a couple of leaves, I did one out of a polka dot. This is from the pattern paper pack. And then I just did one out of solid color cardstock. I liked a little bit of contrast, lighter, darker pattern, no pattern. And I'm going to glue this bloom right down onto these kind of diagonal stripes. It's lots of happy color. And before I press down too securely, I'm going to glue the leaves and kind of tuck them right behind and get them in there so they hold steady. Now, for a sentiment, have I thought of it? No, but I knew I was going to use a stamp set. I just didn't know which one, and you could use any of these. I decided on the Hello Friend up in the top left, and I'm just going to emboss this in white on a little strip of black cardstock. I like to do a white on black when I have a lot of color in the card. It gives a nice pop of contrast. But on the second card, I just stamp the sentiment right onto the card. You don't always have to do like an embossed sentiment strip. This is just a nice option. So I'm heating that with the heat gun and then taking my little mini guillotine trimmer and trimming this out into a thin little sentiment strip. And then I am going to put a little foam adhesive on the back to pop it up. Now let's talk about dimension. These cards, I am not going to lie, they are very dimensional. They're hefty and they mean business. But you know what I say about dimension? Dimension is life. So there's card number 1 in all its shaker glory. So let's talk about mailing these things. I would recommend, if you want to mail it, padded envelope. See, I've tried to mail like dimensional cards in a regular size envelope, but they're too thick, so they're not going to fit through the little slot. It's going to end up costing you like $3 or $4, $5, where if you mail just a padded envelope, a smallest one, It's only like $1 something. It actually is cheaper. Learned that the hard way. So I say padded envelope, but number one way to give these cards is hand delivery. Okay, here I am gluing 2 blooms on a card base. I've got a white card base, a soft gray panel. I did have to pop up the pinky rose bloom, and I used an extra little foam shape from card number 1, the little petal that popped out. I used that because it was the perfect thickness to pop up that pinky bloom. Tuck in a few leaves that I went ahead and die cut. Now for the center of one of the blooms, I decided to cut this little vellum doodad. I just picked one of the dies that's in the die set, and I thought that looked pretty. I'm going to go ahead and glue one of those little adhesive drops that I have in my stash right in the center. Just kind of covers up that glue that you see through the vellum. And then now for a sentiment. I do not recommend this. This is what happens when you don't think ahead. I had to be very strategic with my acrylic block and stamping this with black ink. You got to have a steady hand and even pressure. You definitely should stamp the sentiment before you glue everything on, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And this one says, love you lots. So there you have 2 beautiful, colorful floral shakers featuring the Fancy Flowers kit by Queen & Company. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.